What if the part of you you've been calling weak was actually the part that saved your life? Let that question settle for a moment. Think back to the moments when you broke down. The nights you cried quietly in the dark so no one would hear. The days you smiled through a pain no one could see. The moments you couldn't function, couldn't speak, couldn't even explain what was happening inside you. Society told you that was a weakness, that you needed to toughen up, move on, and get over it. But what if they were wrong? What if your so-called breakdown was actually your soulless, desperate attempt to survive a world that kept asking you to be someone you were not? Carl Jung, the father of depth psychology, once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul." But what if your suffering, your anxiety, your withdrawal, your emotional collapse was your soul facing you, screaming, "I can't keep pretending anymore"? You didn't fall apart because you were weak. You fell apart because a part of you had to split off to protect what was left of your truth. This is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of intelligence, of resilience, of inner wisdom that chose fragmentation over annihilation. But most of us never hear that. Instead, we internalize the lie, "There's something wrong with me," and so we begin to live in halves. One part of us performs, pleases, obeys. The other part, buried, silenced, hidden, carries the pain, the rage, the truth. You were never weak. You were divided. And that division wasn't your fault, it was your strategy. It was survival. But survival is not the same as living. In this video, we're going to explore what really happened when you lost yourself. We're going to look deep into the psyche through the eyes of Carl Jung, and what we find might shake you. Because once you understand this truth, you can never go back to who you were pretending to be. Are you ready? Before we dive deeper, take a second to like this video if something here is already resonating with you. Hit subscribe, and don't forget to tap the notification bell, so you'll be the first to know when the next video drops. Because the next one might just be the piece you've been missing. Now, let's go deeper. There was once a child, deeply feeling, wildly curious, and completely open to the world. A child who hadn't yet learned how to lie to themselves. A child who expressed emotions freely, who asked uncomfortable questions, who loved fully and hurt loudly. But in that child's world, such raw truth was dangerous. Perhaps it was a home filled with silence where emotions were seen as threats. Perhaps it was a parent too broken to hold space for the child's tears. Perhaps it was school where vulnerability invited ridicule. Or maybe it was simply a world that didn't have time for a sensitive soul. So the child learned something heartbreaking, but essential for survival. If I show my real self, I'll lose love. And in that moment of quiet realization that being authentic could lead to abandonment, the psyche made a split. It's not that the child chose this consciously. The split happened automatically, a defense mechanism, a sacred act of survival. One part of them would carry on, smiling, adapting, achieving, pretending. The other part, the true self, would be buried deep in the unconscious, locked away for safekeeping. Carl Jung called this the beginning of the persona, the mask we wear to be accepted. Behind it, in the shadows, lives everything we had to hide, our fear, our grief, our anger, our truth. And so, like many of us, the child grew into their mask. They became agreeable, high-functioning, pleasing. They knew how to make others feel comfortable. They said the right things, played the right roles. They survived, not by being who they were, but by becoming who others needed them to be. On the outside, they looked strong. On the inside, they felt hollow. They didn't know it yet, but they were living in exile from themselves. As the years passed, the cost of that exile grew heavier. The child, now an adult, began to experience symptoms they couldn't explain. Anxiety that didn't seem to have a cause. A deep, aching emptiness even in moments of success. A chronic sense of not belonging even in rooms full of people. They were praised for their resilience, for being so put together. But inside, they felt fragmented, unknown. They had spent years mastering the art of fitting in, but in the process, they lost the ability to feel at home in their own skin. You see, the part of them that was cast into the shadow, the true self, never disappeared. It waited. It whispered. It showed up in dreams, in triggers, in breakdowns. It cried out for integration. But every time the mask tightened, the real self was pushed further away. Maybe this happened to you too. Maybe you learned to hide your tears to avoid being mocked. Maybe your anger was called bad behavior, so you swallowed it. Maybe your joy was too much, so you toned yourself down. Maybe your needs were inconvenient, so you stopped asking altogether. And now you wonder why you feel so disconnected from your life. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But what is even more terrifying and infinitely more damaging is to spend your entire life rejecting yourself piece by piece, just to feel safe." This split, this division, is not your failure. It was your solution. Your psyche did what it had to do to keep you alive in an environment that couldn't meet your needs. That was never a weakness. That was wisdom. But the same strategy that kept you safe is now keeping you stuck. Because the mask, once useful, has become a prison. The persona cannot feel joy. It cannot grieve. It cannot love deeply. Only the whole self can do that. And to become whole again, you must return to the place where you split. Not to relive the pain, but to retrieve the part of you that was left behind. This is not easy. It requires confronting the past, and even scarier, confronting who you pretended to be just to survive it. But there is no freedom without this confrontation. Jung called this process individuation, the sacred journey of reuniting with all the parts of yourself. Not just the polished, acceptable ones, but the messy, angry, grieving, abandoned ones too. The truth is, you were never broken. You were divided. And now, life is inviting you to come back to yourself, fully. Because until you do, no amount of success, attention, or love will ever feel like enough. Not because you're unworthy, but because the person receiving it isn't the real you. So are you ready to meet the version of you that's been waiting patiently in the shadows? Not to be judged, not to be fixed, but to be remembered? Because that, not perfection, not performance, is what healing actually means. Carl Jung believed that in order to survive society, every human being develops a psychological mask, one we show to the world in exchange for acceptance, love, safety, and survival. He called this mask the persona. It's the version of you that knows how to behave in public, the one who says all the right things, smiles on cue, performs well at work, plays the roles expected of you, the good student, the responsible adult, the ideal partner, the competent professional. It's not fake, it's functional. The persona is how we navigate the social world. Without it, relationships would collapse into chaos. But here's the problem. When you identify only with the persona, you begin to believe the mask is you. And that is where the danger begins. Because behind the persona lives everything you had to suppress in order to be accepted. All the emotions you were taught were too much. All the desires that made others uncomfortable. All the rage you weren't allowed to express. All the softness you were told to toughen up. Everything you repressed didn't disappear. It simply slipped into what Jung called the shadow, the unconscious container of all the parts of you that were exiled. And the deeper you push those parts away, the more they begin to govern your life from the dark. Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This is not just poetic. It's terrifyingly accurate. It means that the unresolved emotions, buried stories, and denied truths don't just vanish, they leak. They show up in your relationships, in your addictions, in your burnout, in your depression. in the way you keep sabotaging the very things you say you want. Have you ever found yourself in the same toxic dynamic over and over again? Ever caught yourself reacting with intensity to things that shouldn't matter that much? Ever felt like there's a war inside you between the life you're living and the life you actually want? That's not random. That's your shadow pulling strings from behind the curtain, directing the show of your life while you believe it as just bad luck or your personality. But here is the truth. What you call self-sabotage might just be your buried self, trying to break free. Let's go back to the split. The division between persona and shadow usually starts in childhood. In order to survive emotionally in families, schools, cultures that can't accept our full humanity, we trim off pieces of ourselves. We become less honest, less loud, less emotional, less needy. We become who we need to be in order to be loved. But this comes at a cost. By the time we reach adulthood, we're often carrying a persona so polished and practiced that we forget who we are without it. But deep within, the shadow remembers, and it doesn't stay quiet. It whispers in your insomnia. It burns in your chest when you pretend you're fine. It floods your thoughts in the silence after distraction fades. And then comes the moment Jung warned us about, the midlife crisis, or as I prefer to call it, the existential confrontation. It's not just a phase. It is the reckoning that arrives when the persona can no longer carry the weight of the shadow, when the performance starts to crack, when the life you built starts to feel foreign, even suffocating. This is the moment many fear, but it's also the moment healing begins, because you cannot live divided forever. At some point, the split between who you are and who you pretend to be becomes unbearable. And your soul, the part of you that never forgot who you truly are, demands to be seen. This is where Jung's concept of individuation enters, the lifelong process of integrating the persona and the shadow, the conscious and unconscious, the fragmented self into wholeness. It's not about destroying the persona, you still need it. It's not about glorifying the shadow. It contains pain, fear, even darkness. It's about bringing them both into the light, owning them, listening to them, reconciling them. Jung didn't promise that this path would be easy. He said clearly, there is no coming to consciousness without pain, but it is the only path that leads to a life of authenticity, depth, and true inner peace. The moment you begin to make the unconscious conscious, when you stop hiding from your shadow and start dialoguing with it, everything changes. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop seeking validation and start reclaiming your worth. You stop living a life of appearances and start becoming whole. So let me ask you, who would you be without the mask? What truth have you buried so deep you forgot it was ever there? And are you willing, finally, to go looking for it? Because the moment you do, the split begins to heal. And what you once called weakness might reveal itself as your greatest power. Here's the truth most people never hear. You don't heal by conquering your darkness. You heal by turning toward it and staying. Our culture loves to talk about overcoming fear, beating trauma, killing the ego. But Carl Jung saw something far more profound. He understood that the parts of us we fear the most aren't enemies to destroy. They are messengers, forgotten voices, fragments of the self, exiled, not evil. Jung believed that we cannot become whole by bypassing the dark. We become whole by walking into it, with eyes open, heart steady, and ego humbled. Because what you call fear might actually be the part of you that's been trying to protect you for decades. What you call shame might be an old version of you still trying to survive. What you call weakness might be the scarred, silent core of your true self, waiting to be loved back into life. But here's the paradox. To get there, you must stop fighting it. Healing doesn't come from dominating your inner world. It comes from listening to it. So many of us are at war with ourselves without even realizing it. We judge our emotions. We suppress our needs. We talk to our pain like it's a nuisance. We reject our inner child every time we say, "I shouldn't feel this way." And then we wonder why we're exhausted. But here's the thing. You are not broken. You are blocked. Blocked by years of conditioning, fear, repression, and a lifetime of pretending that the mask is the truth. Jung called this the path of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating all parts of the psyche, especially the ones you've learned to reject. And it begins the moment you stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What part of me have I abandoned?" Let's be clear, facing the shadow is not romantic, it's raw. It's humbling. It requires honesty, the kind of honesty that burns. It means admitting that the strength you built was often a reaction to fear, that the good person you became was shaped more by survival than authenticity, that your self-sabotage was actually self-protection in disguise. And yet, within that truth lies incredible freedom. Because the moment you stop running from your darkness, it stops chasing you. Instead of screaming, it starts speaking. Instead of haunting, it starts guiding. It reveals what it has always tried to show you, that you are deeper, wider, and more resilient than you ever imagined. You don't need to fight the shadow. You need to sit with it. Ask it what it wants. Listen. Because the shadow isn't trying to destroy your life. It's trying to give you your life back. Every fear, every insecurity, every self-defeating pattern is a doorway. And behind that doorway is a part of you that was never bad, only buried. But be careful. The ego doesn't like this process. It wants certainty, control, and clear answers. The ego asks, "How do I fix this? What's the right way to be? How do I become better?" But the soul asks, "Can I be with what is? Can I embrace my contradictions? Can I meet myself not with judgment, but with compassion?" The real work is not becoming someone else. It's remembering the self you were before the world taught you who to be. And when you start this process of returning, of integrating, you begin to feel something unfamiliar, yet ancient. Wholeness. Not perfection, not constant happiness, but integrity, an inner alignment between your outer life and your inner truth. You start saying no without guilt. You start setting boundaries without apology. You start honoring your sadness, your anger, your joy as equally sacred. You stop needing to be good. You start becoming real. And the people who once praised your compliance, they may not understand this new version of you. They might say you've changed, and they'd be right. Because you are no longer playing the role. You are no longer outsourcing your worth. You are no longer afraid of the dark. You've made peace with it. You are no longer a fragmented self pretending to be whole. You are walking the path back, not to who you should be, but to who you already are beneath the masks. And this return to yourself, is the quiet revolution that changes everything. So let me ask you again, what if the part of you you've spent years calling weak was actually the part that saved your life? What if your sadness wasn't a flaw, but a form of truth? What if your anxiety wasn't a malfunction, but a message? What if your breakdown wasn't a collapse, but the beginning of your return? You were never broken. You were divided, split, not because you failed, but because you were intelligent enough to adapt to a world that wasn't ready for your fullness. You survived by becoming what others needed you to be. But now it's time to become who you were meant to be. This isn't a call to become someone new. It's a call to come home, to the parts of you that never stopped waiting. The child who felt too much. The teenager who silenced their truth. The adult who now wonders, is this all there is? You were taught to survive, but you were not taught how to live as a whole person. To live with your heart open and your soul intact. To feel without fear. To fail without shame. To exist, not for others, not for approval, but from the core of your own being. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But that privilege isn't granted. It's earned. through radical honesty, deep self-inquiry, and the courage to face everything inside you that you've been taught to run from. You are not here to perform. You are not here to be perfect. You are not here to carry the expectations of a world that never knew your name. You are here to become whole. And to do that, you must stop surviving. Stop living only in reaction. Stop wearing the mask so tightly that you can't even breathe. Let the persona fall. Let the shadow speak. Let the split begin to mend, not with force, but with compassion. You don't heal through war. You heal through witnessing. Through turning toward the wounded parts and saying, I see you, you make sense, you belong. You are allowed to be messy. You are allowed to contradict yourself. You are allowed to feel lost, afraid, uncertain, and still be exactly where you need to be. This is not a weakness. This is humanity. You were never meant to be a machine, a brand, a product of societal templates. You were meant to be real, raw, honest, alive. And realness? It doesn't always look graceful. It looks like truth. It sounds like silence after years of noise. It feels like freedom, even when it's terrifying. You may lose people when you stop performing. You may disappoint those who preferred the mask. But in return, you'll find something far more valuable yourself. The one who never asked to be edited. The one who doesn't need to be fixed. The one who has always been enough, even in pieces. This is not a surface-level transformation. This is an unlearning, a dismantling of everything false in service of everything true. And it begins the moment you choose to stop outsourcing your identity and start reclaiming your wholeness. So here is your invitation. Take back the parts of you you abandoned just to belong. Speak the truths you swallowed just to be loved. Feel the emotions you locked away just to be strong. You were not too much. You were not weak. You were not broken. You were surviving. And you did it well. But now, it's time to stop surviving and start living whole, raw, real. Because the world doesn't need another polished mask. It needs you, the real you. And if that scares you, good. That's how you know it matters. The fear you feel now, it's not a warning, it's a signal. A sign that your soul is waking up. And when it does, nothing will ever be the same again. This is your return. If this resonated with you, share it, speak it, and most of all, live it. If this message spoke to something deep inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit like, not for the algorithm, but as a signal to your future self that this moment mattered. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because every week, we go deeper into the parts of you the world taught you to ignore, into the truths that can set you free. And if something in this video hit home, a line, a moment, a realization, drop it in the comments below. Let's turn this into a space of reflection, connection, and truth. I read every word, and so do others who need to know they're not alone in this journey back to wholeness. See you at the next one.